Today's news mashup has some really sensitive topics. I'm putting it out there, so if you need to scroll away, please do so. Have you guys heard of the story of Sade Robinson? Sade Robinson was unalived after a date with a man, and her body was dismembered and spread all over the city. The alleged person who is responsible for this has been taken into custody and is being charged. So we shall see what comes of this story. But it was definitely a ruthless story. Such a bright light to be dimmed so early.
And this home is where prosecutors say Maxwell Anderson killed Sade Robinson after the two went on a date last Monday. Now, this case is bringing into light the story that has simmered in the shadows for days. While a concerned family was looking for a missing woman, body parts were turning up all across the city of Milwaukee. And now we have more information on why. Prosecutors say Anderson and Sade Robinson went out to two restaurants and bars the night of April 1st, then returned to Anderson's home on South 39th Street. They say at some point that night, Anderson killed Robinson, dismembered her body, then drove her car around while he scattered the body parts in various places.
The allegations in the complaint are abhorrent. It is the highest level of violence imaginable.
Anderson also did Sade's car and lit it on fire. Anderson's attorney first tried to get the homicide charge thrown out.
And there's nothing in here that says that she died at Mr. Anderson's home.
Sade's mother again lashed out.
Before we address
Anderson's attorney then alluded to Anderson being innocent.
Had Mr. Anderson been involved in this horrible tragedy, we would expect one to flee.
But Sade's family had been searching for her ever since her disappearance. Authorities used phone records, surveillance video, and home security video to close in on Anderson. He was arrested Thursday, April 4th. And prosecutors say there are still missing body parts as they continue to look for all the human remains from Sade Robinson.
Officials say the remains found at multiple locations in Milwaukee are still being processed for official identification.
You see this little baby? You know what this little baby did wrong? She was born to a daddy that didn't want to pay child support. This dad put antifreeze in this baby's breast milk. Now, when I talk about the 4B movement and why women should just literally just stop having babies for a while, just stop it. There are reasons why so many bad things are going on right now, and we just need the great reset like Supreme from the West 4B movement talks about. Just stop having babies for them. Now, here is that story.
Of a father convicted of trying to murder his newborn daughter. He told police he put antifreeze in the child's milk because he did not want to pay child support. A judge sentenced that father to 50 years in prison. Channel 2's Taisha Fernandez is live in South Fulton, where she spoke to the lead detective in this case exclusively today. Taisha, this was a tough case for investigators, and I know for you as well to cover today.
It was tough for everybody. You know, many of the investigators, Karen, are parents themselves. You know, I'm a parent myself, so everyone has just been disgusted by this father's actions, especially because he appeared to have some remorse, confessed to police, but then took it back. Today, I had the privilege to talk to the child's mother. She's not ready to talk about the conviction just yet, but she did tell me the child is doing okay.
It hit home because it was an 18-day-old baby.
South Fulton Police Sergeant Sade Dickerson was the lead detective on this attempted murder case back in 2020. He said seeing this newborn poisoned by antifreeze was tough.
With our job, we have to really tap into two different places. We have to do our job. We also have to be empathetic with the parent. So it kind of hit home based off of us trying to figure out who done it and what the motives were.
It all started when Curtis Jack got his co-worker pregnant. She told police Curtis tried to get her to terminate the pregnancy for the entire 9 months. Once she had the baby, she had to stay in the hospital. So she told the father to come pick up breast milk from her and take it to the baby at the grandmother's house. Curtis told police he put antifreeze in the milk because he didn't want to pay child support.
That could have killed that child.
Yes.
It didn't. But once Curtis was indicted and faced several charges, including attempted murder, he took back his confession. So detectives and the DA's office had to work even harder to make sure the case was solid and they got a conviction.
It's beyond just getting a confession. We still have to prove that the person actually committed the crime. I mean, you still have to prove that the person is guilty.
Detectives were so confused by the motive in this case because they said the father had a good paying job and the mother does too. I also want to mention this. Police say Curtis Jack was engaged to another woman at the time all this was happening, so that may have played a role in this attempted murder. We're live in the city of South Fulton. Taisha Fernandez, Channel 2 Action News.
Now, we have already talked about what Arizona did with rolling back their Smbortion ban to a law that was from 1864. Well, supposedly their Republican leadership decided to skip out on the citizens of Arizona, and they went to a fundraiser in Kentucky, and this content creator is breaking it down.
We caught the Arizona Republicans in a huge lie. And I mean, like us. One of you sent me a secret email that lobbyists got on behalf of Republican legislative leaders here in Arizona. I think this is actually going to be pretty big news here in my home state and maybe around the country. So yesterday in Arizona, Republican legislators blocked every Democrat effort to repeal the worst abortion ban in America. It's a Civil War era law that our Supreme Court, a Republican-dominated Supreme Court, reinstated with the court ruling just this week. Now, despite a few Republican legislators pretending that they are really motivated to eliminate this ban, the Republicans yesterday adjourned. They closed up shop. They voted to take the week off. So with all the media attention that the Republican legislature and this law got, they had to find a way to justify the vote that they took to adjourn, to take the week off. And that is what the Speaker of the House, a guy named Ben Toma, did. He released a statement, and in it he said, "The court's 47-page ruling was released just yesterday, and we as an elected body are going to take the time needed to listen to our constituents and carefully consider the appropriate actions, rather than rush legislation on a topic of this magnitude without a larger discussion." That, my friends, is the lie. You see, Ben Toma and the Senate President Warren Peterson and Republican legislators in Arizona, they are not using this time to actually do their job and consider appropriate actions. No, they needed to adjourn because they have a multi-day fundraiser where lobbyists can spend a minimum of $10,000 to get FaceTime with the Republican leaders of the legislature. Now, you might ask, if you are a nerdy Arizona political person like me, and that you know how campaign finance laws in our state work, you might say, like, wait a minute, isn't it illegal for legislators to take money from lobbyists while they're in session? The answer to that is yes, it is. But what they are doing here is they are taking advantage of a loophole. The money that they're collecting isn't going to their own campaign accounts, okay? It is going to this large slush fund that the leaders can use however they want. And they say they're going to use it to keep Democrats out of power. But, okay, this still doesn't explain, but why adjourn? Why not go to the fundraiser at night after a day of lawmaking? Well, that's because this fundraiser is in Louisville, Kentucky. It is a glorious, extravagant 3-day event with steakhouses, raw bars, sushi bars, cigar bars, bourbon tasting, and a whole heck of a lot of corruption. This is the Republican Party in Arizona, folks. I mean, aside from the corruption, like, they lied to the public. And instead of doing the job we are paying them for, they're getting drunk with lobbyists in another state. Not for 1 hour, not for one night, but for a few days. Look, they are desperate. They want to stay in office. So instead of doing the right thing and finding even a compromised position that most Democrats would not normally agree with, but they're willing to take in order to save lives over the next few months, instead of actually doing that, the way they're going to stay in power is they're going to collect $25,000 checks from corporations and from lobbyists out of state. That's their plan. And they don't want you to know about it. They don't want the public to know about it. But one of you glorious people sent me an email about it. The invitation, the fundraising invitation that they sent out to these lobbyists. And I'll tell you, we're going to know eventually who these companies were and who these lobbyists were that gave money to the leaders of the Republican House and Senate in Arizona a day after they blocked fixing this abortion ban, which has the potential not only to destroy lives, but to wreak absolute havoc on our growing economy. So check this out. Here is the donor page. Let's say you don't have a ton of money. You only have $10,000 to spend. Well, then you become a bourbon enthusiast. They're selling 8 of those, okay? They're selling 5 $15,000 tickets. They're selling 2 $20,000 tickets. And the one single $25,000 ticket, when this email was sent out, they already sold it. By the way, do you love they use the word sold? It's a donation, but they use the word sold because they know exactly what's happening here. For those of you in Kentucky, one of the things that I got is the actual schedule. So maybe you can let us know whether or not the places where they are having these corrupt fundraisers of people who are denying abortion rights, whether or not they're nice places. April 11th, tonight at 8 p.m. in Louisville, Kentucky, they are going to be at Jeff Ruby's Steakhouse with they proudly offer nationally acclaimed USDA prime steaks and a stunning array of raw bar and sushi specialties. And so, like, that's not enough. So what's going to happen is the next day they're going to go on the bourbon tour, and the first stop is going to be at Woodford Reserve Distillery. The second stop is going to be at Buffalo Trace Distillery, and the final stop is going to be at Lawrenceburg Bourbon Company. And then, of course, boy, is that it? No, there's going to be another dinner at 8 p.m. At Barn 8 Restaurant, which is recently included in the 2024 USA Today Restaurants of the Year list. Wow. It's going to provide an unforgettable dining experience to cap off your exclusive bourbon experience in a magnificent setting. And then you get to go home on April 13th. If you want to know how you can counter this kind of a thing, well, the first thing is share it. Let people know. Let people find out what it is that we've figured out here together, and the hypocrisy and the lying of the Republican legislatures and the open corruption that we have uncovered here. But the other thing you can do is maybe they're giving 25 grand, but you can give 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever you can spare, even if you're not from Arizona, to this organization. They're the Arizona Legislative Democratic Campaign Committee. That's the organization in my state that is trying to make Arizona fully blue in November.
So have you seen the attack that happened at the Sydney, Australia shopping mall? Well, it's all over the place, and this happens to be an article from NBC, but lots of news articles are being written about it. Bystanders hailed for confronting and stopping a man who unalived 6 people at a Sydney shopping mall. A police officer and several bystanders are being hailed for running towards danger to confront the attacker who stabbed and unalived 6 people at a suburban Sydney shopping center. The shopping mall, one of the country's busiest and near the world-famous Bondi Beach, was a hub of activity on Saturday afternoon when 40-year-old Joel Cauchy used a knife to unalive 5 women and 1 man. He also injured at least a dozen others, including a 9-month-old baby whose mother died during the attack before the police shot him dead. And there was a video of the last thing that this woman did, one of the moms. She gave her baby off to somebody else before this man took her life. New South Wales police confirmed Sunday Cauchy had a history of mental illness, and investigators weren't treating the attack as terrorism related. The number would have been far higher, according to the NSW Premier Chris Minns, who on Sunday praised the ordinary members of the public that cornered and confronted a murderer in the Westfield shopping center, showing what I would call instinctive bravery under terrible circumstances. Talking to reporters while standing outside the shopping mall, Minns underscored the role played by Inspector Amy Scott, the first emergency responder on the scene, who shot and unalived Cauchy and has since been widely lauded as a hero. Scott ran towards danger and showed professionalism and bravery, and without a shadow of a doubt saved many, many lives in the last 24 hours. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese also praised Scott in a press conference in Canberra. The wonderful inspector who ran into danger by herself and removed the threat was there to others without even thinking about herself. He commended ordinary Australians putting themselves in harm's way in order to help their fellow citizens. The bravery was quite extraordinary that we saw yesterday. Video footage shared online showed many people fleeing, some carrying their children as they escaped, while a knife-wielding Kochi ran erratically through the shopping center, lunging at people. Other footage showed a bystander holding what appeared to be a metal pole to hold off Kochi, who was coming up an escalator at the time. Hundreds of floral tributes and messages for the victims have been laid outside the closed shopping mall on Sunday, which police said would remain an active crime scene for days, if not weeks. There have been a whole lot of things going on where women have been attacked for practically no reason. And I really wonder what is going on. Are these incelsauruses? Are these people just failing and flailing? And now women are being harmed. Hopefully we get some answers, but hopefully these people start being investigated and we stop them before they harm more women. More women, more children. Obviously, a man died in this. I believe it might have been a man that was a mall security person. So that person was probably trying to stop Kachi as well. All right, jump in here. Let me know if you have seen this, if you've heard this, but definitely a sad day for news these days.
This is out of Australia. 6 people dead following a stabbing attack at a busy shopping center. 9 News, our CNN affiliate in Sydney, reports that one of the victims is a mother whose baby was also attacked. Witnesses described the moments that they jumped in and tried to help them.
Then the mother came with the baby, bleeding, stabbed, and we got them into the store and just got them safe and then rang for help.
And what did you use to help stop the blood?
Just from the shop. Just kept yelling out to get some clothes, get some shirts.
Wow, a police officer shot and killed the attacker. Several other victims are now in the hospital.